Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Compelling Conversations podcast. Today, I'm honored to be joined by a very good friend, Gustavo. Gustavo, thanks so much for being here, man.
What's up, Homer, man? Finally, episode 60. Finally, bro. It's been like a long, long wait, but I'm glad to be here, bro. Finally.
I'm glad to have you on here, man. This is very cool because I remember the first time anyone had ever told me that I should start a podcast, it was you. We had just taken the biology final, and then we sat down at a cafe. We were victors, just sitting there. We were like having a good time. We had a great conversation. And then at the end of it, you're like, dude, we should have recorded that. That was such a great conversation. We should just had a podcast. So that was the first time that idea ever came. So now we're here. How cool is this?
It's crazy what little ideas how can they influence you later on, right? Little comments like that. I mean, I said that honestly, like I did say that in like very heartful way, 'cause I could see you had the persona, you had the charisma for this kind of stuff. So I was like, dude, you should do something with it, you know. And look at you, you're how many years, 2, 3 years later? It's insane, dude. It's insane.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no. And thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Dude, my cat, he went missing for a couple of days, and nobody in my family knew what happened to him. And like we were all very sad. And I was low key like hiding my tears. But then he magically appeared like not too long ago. It's like, oh my God, like he's here. It's such a beautiful thing. And the reason I mention that is because like I never thought I could feel so much for an animal, but I did. It was like a piece of me was gone. I'm curious if you've ever had that kind of an experience with an animal or a person, what that's been like for you.
Oh man, I never had. Oh, I had a few pets throughout my life, but nothing close like that. Uh, more human, I guess. Uh, I could think of family, like my great grandma. She when she passed away, it was a bit, like I guess you couldn't believe it because when you're young, at least for me, you don't think all the people die. That's more like in a movie thing. You don't see it, because everything's kind of like new, fresh, living. You don't think of death, I guess. And when it does strike you, it's like, whoa, it's like, it's happening right here, next to my inner circle or inside my inner circle. It's not like some friend of a friend, cousin, boyfriend, girlfriend thing. It's like, no, it's like close to me. So when she died, it was like, I didn't have a super close relationship with her, but man, it did hit, it did feel like death was real and it could come at any time. So, uh, it is what it is, man. It just hits you, and it could be at a young age or later on, but eventually, I think everybody realizes that death will come at any time, dude. Sorry that sounds so depressing, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man.
That's the way to put it. And what you just said right now made me think of how it's like death infiltrated your circle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like, damn, the way you said it, like so close. That's interesting. And the only time that death has affected me personally, like what you said, is when my grandfather passed away. And it was like a similar thing, like, wow, kind of infiltrated your circle. Now it has swept by you. It's interesting.
yeah,
Do you think
yeah.
it changed you in a way?
I think it was the beginning of like because I remember that night, like instead of well, it wasn't tears of joy or sadness. It was just kind of in the moment, I guess. The whole day when I found out, it was just normal. Like oh, it was time. She was old, blah blah blah. And then I just thought at night. It's always at night, man. When the feelings, when your thoughts come creeping in, and everything's quiet, and you actually let your soul kind of, talk to you. And yeah, it just made me feel, like man, I was, I cried for a little bit, not like super teary, but it was emotional for me. And I realized, how vulnerable life is, and I just thought about that a lot. Like, man, what if, we pass away? Like our mortality, our limited time here.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to think about that kind of stuff. Makes you think of life well, makes you take life more seriously, you know.
Yes. I one of my friends also passed away. You met him one time, Jorge. And it's interesting when he died, I didn't really quite know how to react to that. He was such a close friend to me, but I'm not sure. There was one night where like I really cried about him because I was really sad. But like that whole experience up until now, it makes me think, what does it even mean to grieve correctly? Is there even a correct way to grieve? Because I was just so unsure how to react to that. And I was listening actually to Dave Grohl, and he was talking about like, maybe there isn't necessarily a right way to grieve. Everybody grieves in their own ways, in their own time. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. I haven't figured that out either, but you're right, like death is that.
Hey, dude, yeah, man. I mean, everybody has their ways to express it. Some people through poetry, art, music, talking to people, just kind of letting it go, get it out of your system. Some people just move on, you could say cold-hearted, but they kind of just, all right, it happened and we got to move on,
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
a poet actually, a writer, Henry Longfellow. I don't remember his exact quote, but it was something along the lines of how people, when they see someone that's cold, they just think that, oh, that person's mean or rude or angry. But really, what it is just that person is carrying on to their own pain, and that's how they process it, how they cope. They're just cold.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think I know people like that close family members have passed away around them, and you're expecting to be crying, sad, and just sobbing and feeling down, and it's like no, it's just they're obviously they're sad, but it's not like how people really get some like depressed, or they can really take about a week, a month, or even like a year to kind of like, especially the way they die. I think that really matters a lot. It's not the same when someone dies from an old age and they're like, okay, it was expecting it, than to like somebody who just died in a car crash, and you were like right next to them or something. That's two different ways, and it can affect, it can take a little bit more time to kind of settle down depending on the situation. So yeah, yeah.
You are a very disciplined man for as long as I've known you. Do you think the concept of death contributes to you being disciplined in any way?
Yeah, I think so, man. About maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I feel like I started this whole discipline thing, and it was through that time when I mentioned like my great grandmother died and all that, and it just made me feel a bit more vulnerable, and like I said, you have a limited time here, so why not use it as the best you can. So if you don't have discipline, time will go by, and it will just leave you behind, and you get closer to that meeting day with death. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I don't know if it's in a few years, hopefully in a long, long time, right? But I want to be sure that I can do whatever I can to like please and be in peace with myself, basically. Make sure that whenever that day comes, I can know, like, man, I went after what I wanted and I did it, or at least I tried to do it. Not everything will accomplish. I know that whole hard work will pay off. Sometimes it just won't. Sometimes you have to settle with the cards you're given, and that's it. But you can always improve. You will find something else. Just take down the road that whatever life throws at you. Just keep going. you know.
I, if I'm not mistaken, there's a story about Moses and that the angel of death came to him. And when he saw the angel of death, he punched him, like, leave. And so
Yo.
God was like, all right, look, like, here's like this, cow, I believe is what it was. So, like,
Mhm.
take your hand and spread it across, like, its body. However many, like, hairs it touches will be the years of life you get on. And so Moses thought about it. He's like, you know what? Like, I'll just accept my death for when it comes. If I'm not mistaken, that's like a story in the Muslim tradition. I just think it's interesting. I don't know why. I just thought of it when you said that. But another thing I was curious about was you said if you're not disciplined, time will go by. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by that?
I think, like, for example, when I was in school, like college especially, you know, I find it so interesting that, you know, in college to be successful, at least in my opinion, you have to be disciplined with your school material. If you want to have a good balance in life, you need to know when to balance your schoolwork, your homework, your hobbies, friends, family, and you have to be disciplined to follow it through. Let's say 4 or 5 years, you have to really dial in and get the most out of those 4 or 5 years, because after that, that segment of your life is gone. Next chapter starts. So if you miss 5 years of your life, let's say you're 18, you finish at 24, 23. I mean, that's 5 years, man. All right, you're still young, but let's say another 5 years ago, 27. More time passes on, and you still haven't accomplished what you wanted to do, either lose weight or go to a vacation home or start your book, your music or your art or whatever, all that kind of stuff. If you're not disciplined with your time, time is not forgiving, dude. You miss your train, you're not. There's sometimes life will throw in that second chance, that second ticket, the train you miss. But if you don't take it, man, I mean, I learned that the hard way sometimes, and it sucks. So use your time wisely.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that you learned it the hard way because I haven't spent every day with you, but it seems like anytime I do meet you, you don't seem like someone who slips up. But do you slip up in your discipline? And if you do, how do you cope with that?
Man, wow, wow, wow. Thank you very much for that comment, dude. I try not to, but obviously I'm human, and I have days, weeks, sometimes where I do slip on the discipline. I'm not a robot. I'm not a cyborg. I have human flesh on me. I'm human. So yeah, there's days where I just waste time. I was just like, man, I'm too tired for it. I'm just gonna leave it for tomorrow. And I think it's okay. As long as you're aware that you're making the decision, not the other way around. If that makes sense.
Well, what is the other way around?
Let's say you start your day by looking at YouTube videos or TikTok or whatever, and that's your first hour could go by like that. Let's say
It
you wake
really
up
could.
at 8 to 9, bro. You're like, you know, frozen in TikTok looking at whatever you're looking at. Hopefully nothing inappropriate, right? But you're looking at something and you're just, what the heck? It's already 9, and you were supposed to work out or actually take your morning walk or something like that, or write on your book, and now you're wasting time, and now you're pressured that you have to go to work, and now you have to go to school or whatever, and that's when you make the excuse. I just don't have time, and it's like you just lost your time. It was controlling you instead of you controlling it. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the best way to explain it, but it's something like that.
It's funny, my friend Xavier the other day, he said for some odd reason I downloaded Instagram again. And it's just like the way he said it, it was just like it hit me so hard. It's like for some odd reason. Like it's so true, you know?
Yeah,
And he said the same thing that you were saying, where it's like just 1 hour, it just goes by. It's gone. It's true.
yeah,
Distractions.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Yeah, distractions. I mean, you gave me one of the best quotes. I don't know what time period it was, but I remember it was like it was an author you told me about distraction ruins creativity. A lack
It's a
of
Robin Sharma quote. He
there.
says, yeah, he said, this was December 2021, so wild. He goes, an addiction to distractions is the death of the creative process. Yeah.
That that quote, I have a screenshot in my photos, and every once in a while I go back to it. It just kind of, make a flip and switch the flip in my brain. Kind of, like, oh man, what am I doing? Let's
Yes.
go back, let's go back, because that quote, I mean, it's so dangerous, man. It's like so true. It hurts to read it, and you're like, oh crap,
Yeah.
it
Yeah, and
hurts. It's
speaking
hurtful.
of this, actually, there's an Australian YouTuber, Struthless. I really admire his work, and something that he says is um the pain of not doing it is worse than the pain of doing it. And I was like, damn, like that's so true too. That statement alone hurts as well. The pain of not doing it hurts more than the pain of doing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it does, dude. It does. Especially when you break your own promise to yourself, that hurts a lot. When you tell yourself, I don't know, like today in the morning, I was just thinking, man, I don't want to do anything today. I just want to chill for today. But in my schedule, I was supposed to run today in the morning. It was 2 mile run, and I woke up and I was just not feeling it. I was like, "Ah, I'll do it tomorrow." And it's just like, man, if I miss today, it's gonna start this little chain of me being okay, breaking my own, promising myself, the promise I made myself. And it's just like, do I even have respect, to honor my own word? I can't do that to myself. So I ended up doing it. And it turned out to be a really good run too. So look at that. Sometimes you just gotta hustle through it.
Sometimes you gotta David Goggins it, eh?
Hey, stay hard.
I'm curious, like I'm sure this is a big question, but is there a valid moment where you can break your word? What do you think?
And there's a valid moment to pick your word. Hmm. I, oh, I think there's a
It's
valid.
tough, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. I think. Yeah, yeah. I think in the moment you might say something, and then maybe a few weeks or even hours later, you weren't maybe just thinking right, or it just goes against your values maybe at the time, and you're just like, well, yeah, I said that, but things have changed or different perspective, or you have different values or something like that. So I think it's valid. It is a tough question. I don't know if how to answer it like truthfully, but I think it's valid. I think it could be valid.
Yeah, I think it could be. Something it's making me think about. Um, like in religion, the concept of like contradicting yourself, like it's a no-go. Like you don't do that. But what's
Hmm.
interesting about art, and I actually learned this from Kurt Cobain, is you can contradict yourself all you want because you're the artist. It's so fascinating. Like, faith is like a sacred thing, but then art, like it's not sacred, which makes it so fascinating to break your word. I don't know, like, because you're an artist as well. What do you make of that? Contradicting yourself.
I mean, I was having a debate with this with my cousin probably like 2 or 3 days ago, and we were discussing how what is art? Like is art meant to be yours, or is art meant to be shared with other people? And we kept coming back and forth, and we agreed with each other, but we came from different ends. He was saying art is yours, screw what everybody else thinks. uh like it's yours. If it's good, it's bad, if it's yours. And then I was thinking, well, shouldn't art be also meant to be shared? If you're feeling sad, angry, depressed, feel like art is a way to communicate those emotions. that you can't maybe verbally, you know. So I don't know. It's just like I think there's a middle ground there. You know, I think it's yeah, art is yours, and you can do whatever you want because it's your art. But I feel like at the end of the day, it help impact people. I think your art should send a message. I think any good art sends a message, relates to some people. You know, whether it's good or bad, it will send a message. Whatever message you were trying to intend, it will go through.
Yeah. And I think that if the message is true to you, it will be true for someone out there.
Exactly, exactly. So that's why I understood his point of view. Like, yeah, your art is yours, and like, if nobody likes it, well, you know, well, I was arguing maybe you just have bad art. If nobody can relate to it, nobody like, come on, so somebody has to like at least appreciate it.
Isn't
But you know,
isn't that the interesting thing though, where it's like, damn, you really don't know? Because I think about Vincent van Gogh a lot. It's like,
mhm.
man, this guy really like his whole life people were just not on it with him, you know? And
Yeah,
now he's considered one of the greatest artists of all time, but he could never
oh,
know that. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, that's sad. You know, his whole life was terrible.
His whole
Nobody,
life was a gamble,
yeah, I mean, yeah,
gambit, a gambit. Yeah.
yeah. And there's a lot of people like that, man, that we don't know about. You know, that just have amazing stuff out there, and it's not until they die or they, you know, pass away or something that people realize, wow, you know, he was onto or she was on to something. You know, like holy crap, why? What happened? You know.
Yeah. By the way, I am a great admirer of your art. I'm a great admirer of your music, dude. I wanted to talk to you about the melody you put together. I don't even know if you'd refer to it as a melody, but it was beautiful. Like honestly, the sort of stuff it was evoking in me. I was driving while listening to it, and like my eyebrows were literally being raised. I was like, "Oh my God, how did this man, how did this man jump from here to here?" And it's like, it's beautiful is what it is. And I just wonder if you don't mind me asking, what happened? What put that together?
You're talking about the one I sent you, right? Okay, that one. That first of all, Ben, thank you so much, bro. That means a lot to me. I think you're the first person that has heard that song,
It's
or
brilliant.
whatever you want to call it. I don't even know how to shape it yet, but that's kind of like a rough draft. I like it. I just don't know when to release it or whatever. But yeah, that came out of a lot of emotions, man, hidden or emotions that I haven't let out. It's just building up inside of me. School was a bit of uh, a rough time. It was a rough journey. COVID happened, all that stuff. It really took a toll. A lot of stuff changed for me, and it was throughout when I moved into the apartments that I was sitting in my room one day, and I worked out a theme that I wanted to kind of create, and I wanted something nostalgic, something a feeling of hopelessness, being lost, being kind of just wondering, no real like emotion, I guess. I know there's emotion to it, but at the same time, I wanted to create something kind of, you know, I wouldn't say blank, but just for let you to kind of wonder, just wondering. And the song, as it progresses, it just gets into different emotions, a little bit more aggressive with the strumming. And then towards the end, it's more of a letting go kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know,
very like Sicilian Godfather, Assassin's Creed-esque. It's cool.
yeah, yeah,
If
dude. When you said that, I never pictured that in my mind. It didn't occur to me when until you sent the video. I was wow,
yeah. And what's
that's
crazy is all those things that I told you that it reminded me of,
mhm.
if I'm not mistaken, you didn't even know about any of those things, but you just created that piece. It's like, whoa, like how do you even do that? You weren't aware of any of that, but you created something that resembles it so much. It was so cool, honestly.
Yeah, I appreciated it. Like I said, it's like you said, actually, like you said, it's with us sincere, what you create. If you can relate to it, it's just like right now you related to something completely different that I wasn't even exposed to, but your background, the way you are, you associated those stuff with the song, and that's what I think that's what art is, because that's two completely different ideas from what I was coming from, but you still related to it and you kind of understood the point or the feeling I was trying to convey. I think that's amazing. I feel like that's really what music is about.
Chris Cornell is my favorite musician, and he's got this one lyric in one of his songs where he says, "Searchlight soul, they say, I can't see it in the night." And what I get from him saying that is people are telling him, "Hey, you're like a searchlight for other people. Like you kind of guide them in their own, oceans of madness or whatever." But he says, "I can't see it in the night." So what I get from it is, um, although he might be a beacon to all these people, he doesn't see it for himself. And as an artist myself, even though I don't like using that term, I feel
Yeah,
like that's me as well. And I'm wondering if that's you too, where perhaps you are a beacon of light for someone, but you can't see it for yourself.
yeah, dude. I think I kind of agree with that. I really agree with that. You really don't know, until people reach out and say, "Wow, man, that was amazing and it helped me through this and blah blah blah." I mean, it's wonderful when they tell you that, or at least maybe understand like, wow, I got the emotion you were trying to convey through your piece, So I think that's a wonderful thing to experience in a way.
Yeah. And in a way, it's also like you don't even have to be an artist necessarily. You can just be a human, right? There's so many
Yeah,
searchlights, and someone might be living their life doing something, and they might just be, working hard at it and thinking nothing's happening, but there's people around them or people in their vicinity that look at them as a beacon of light, as a beacon of hope. And they would
yeah,
never know that either unless somebody told them, right?
yeah. And that's the thing. If somebody told them, they might end
Yeah.
up just feeling like, oh man, I don't help anybody. I don't do anything. Just a waste of air or whatever. But in reality, maybe you got like three or four people just admiring you, and you don't even know it.
Yes.
Yeah,
I really like how Jordan Peterson talks about, he says it surprises him how little encouragement is needed to motivate a person to do better. And I believe him, man. Like there was one person where I very sincerely, wrote them a message, a note card, and it really changed their life. And I could see it. And I was like, oh my God. Like it was just a very beautiful thing to witness. Not
yeah,
like a pat on the back to myself, but just like that was just so beautiful to see. Just like a small word of encouragement really helped this person. So I really
yeah.
believe that, like encouraging others to do better, it really builds people up. It lets them
What do you think
fly.
we do that more often?
Sorry?
What do you think we don't do that more often as people? Because I completely agree. I have experienced that myself. The other day, I was just feeling down, and somebody just told me the simplest thing: "I like your shoes, man." And it just completely changed my day. It was so dumb when I think about it. So cliche. I know it sounds so cliche, but I felt more confident. I'm like, man, yeah, I do got some good style. I do look good today, man. Come on, it's me. Come on, and it just made me feel so much better. It was such a, appreciate the comment, but it was such a small thing, and it's like, wow, why can't we do that more often with, you know because it's kind of rare to actually tell that to people. At least me hearing it, especially working with a lot of people, it's kind of rare to hear it. You
Hmm.
know, So I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's many answers, but I assume the ego is one of them, you know? Or
Shiny.
maybe like some people, I was talking to one of my friends about this, about how some people can be kind of mean or reserved or closed off into cliques because they have low self-esteem, and that, kind of going outside of that even just a little bit is not the journey for them, at least not yet. So maybe something like that, low self-esteem. But
Hmm.
really, I don't know. All I do know is whether, just telling someone that they've got great shoes or just reminding someone of the good things about them. I
Yeah,
really think it can build them up.
yeah, that's completely true, man. Completely true.
Yeah. There was one more thing I wanted to mention because I just think it's such an interesting. I don't know if there's like what's that? I don't know. It's a really cool thing that happened because of fate, right?
Hmm.
Where I was a barista at Barnes and Noble, and this guy comes in, and I just give him a free cookie. And then me and you were planning on going to Austin at the end of the week. And you're
Yeah.
like, bro, I got us a driver. I was like, okay, cool. So we pull up to this guy's house and he looks familiar. Anyways, we get in the car, we drive to Austin, we spend the whole day together. Then we sit down at a Starbucks. And I'm like, yo, you're the guy I gave a free cookie to. It's like I knew
Uh,
you were familiar. Isn't that so interesting? The guy I gave a free
bro,
cookie to became the driver to Austin. How wild is that?
that was so random. So yeah, I don't even know the word to describe that. I mean, the fact that we sat at a Starbucks as well, and you guys met again. That's like, come on, like at a Starbucks, dude. That's crazy. Y'all were probably like sitting exactly the same position or something, from each other. It's insane, dude. I don't know how to describe that stuff.
Isn't that wild though? Just the way that fate works like that. It just
Yeah,
kind of happens to bring you places and two people.
yeah, yeah. I think there's a with the face stuff. I think you have to like search for it. You kind of gotta throw yourself out there in order for fate to kind of guide you through. Push. You gotta give yourself a little push to the river.
Yeah.
Basically.
You got to be open to
Yeah,
seeing where it takes you, type of a thing.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. Um, yeah, that's just a story, funny story that I've always carried with me, and I just wanted to save it somewhere. This place is a place to save it.
yeah. Of course,
Um,
of
yeah,
course,
but it's been a very cool conversation, Gustavo, you know? I'm glad we finally got to save one here. I'm
man.
curious. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, yeah. It took so long, man, to finally get this going. But yeah, yeah. Here we are, and appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy to have you, man. It's
Yeah.
very cool to have an old friend here. It's like, wow, it
What
feels familiar.
do you use? Cypressian?
We're Cypresians, yes. Us
Man,
Cyprus folk.
there's
Yeah.
another one right here.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. I'm curious, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you felt like you wanted to say, but you didn't get a chance to, or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
I guess lately I've been feeling a bit nostalgic, about the past, and I guess, thinking a lot, my closing statement or whatever, just to not overthink the past, learn from it, but don't dwell on it. Uh, don't let regret stop you from achieving your goals or your dreams or whatever you're pursuing. I mean, it's never too late. I know it sounds so cliche, but it's not too late. Keep going. You'll have better days. Life cannot be all bad. There has to be always something good. Just give it time, push through it. It will turn out good. It will turn out good.
Yeah, I think Tupac has a lyric in one of his songs. I forget the exact wording, but it's something like If you can make it through the night, I promise there's a brighter day.
Yeah, no, dude.
That one hits.
Yeah, it's right on, dude. That's spot on. Spot
Yeah.
on. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, well, just to add on to that, there's a Roman or a Latin motto, Festina Lente, which translates to something like make haste slowly. So it's like, do what you got to do, but kind of enjoy the journey as it comes. So I'm
Right.
very happy to have had you be a part of this journey. Thanks for being
Man,
here, man.
appreciate it, man. Appreciate it, Omar.
All right. Well, I suppose until next time, my friend, you take care, stay safe.
Stay safe, bro. Peace.
What have you been thinking about these days? I'm just curious about that.
What
What's
have
been
I
on
been
your
thinking
mind?
about, man? Right now, dude, this, like I said, like from graduating school, man, what I've been focused on is more on myself. All the stuff that I've been putting off because of school, because of work, because of all that, I just said, screw that. I deserve to have a little bit of my own time. My goals, my dreams. I'll give it a year. So from August to August, I want to just do a lot of stuff that I've been thinking about doing, but never had the chance, or just never had a chance. I just want to do it right now because I have no more excuses. There's nothing holding me back. So right now, the future, for this year at least, is getting my own stuff done. Music, exercising and all that stuff, work. That's has been kind of like my bread and butter for the past few months. Whatever the future, I don't know, man. I try not to think too long term, but it's kind of whatever, whatever life throws at me, I guess.
Yeah. Or whatever you decide to throw yourself at too, eh?
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. I remember we discussed once, because you were so disciplined, it was as if you kind of just came to school and then you bounced and didn't really have like all that many, you didn't really put yourself out there so much socially.
Yeah,
Um, Now that you've been thinking about it, do you regret that, or what sort of a role do you think that played in your life?
man. When I think about it, dude, yeah, I kind of regret not giving it a little bit more of that importance. Like, or at least not giving grades so much importance. Even though my degree requires to have a good, GPA and all that stuff, because I wanted to be into the physical therapy thing. A lot of schools look at GPA, and if you're like a 3.3, you're like okay. 3.3 is like good, but to them it's kind of like, oh, you're kind of average. You got to really stand out. 3.4 is like, oh wow, wow, welcome in. You know, four
Out,
is
outside
obviously.
of outside of that dynamic, I'm curious, what do you think it is that makes you stand out as a person?
What makes you stand out as a person? I have no clue, dude. I feel like I'm just a regular guy. Any special qualities? I mean, I don't know. I don't see myself as any more than the next person. It's just, I guess, whatever people see in me, really. I don't know what it is. I try to be optimistic. I think that's something I always try to be, even in the worst. I try to just be level headed and just be like, well, yeah, today was shit, but tomorrow can be better. I'm sorry if I curse. Tomorrow, keep it PG in here. But yeah, like stuff like that.
Yeah,
I try to just be me, and whatever that is, I hope is good. I try to be a respectful person. I still have my, morality and, my values, my core values, respect your elders, stuff like that. So I don't know. I really don't know what uniqueness I have that somebody else doesn't have.
yeah. I mean, frankly, like there was a thing you had posted yesterday. It was like the sunset, and it was an original composition by you. And I
Yeah,
listened to the whole thing, and I was like, that's not something everybody has. Like that was really cool, you
and
know?
that was just an
That you put
emotion.
that frequency out there. Yeah, but that you transmitted that emotion out there. That's
Yeah,
something, I think. That's cool.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate that, dude. Like I said, I wrote that from inside. It came out, and worked on it for maybe a week or two, and just trying to piece all the stuff together, kind of cutting stuff out. And then I went out, filmed that sunset that best described how I felt that day. And I just kind of meshed it up with the piece of music. And, I try my best to reflect those emotions of, if you read the caption, it's like, at the end of it, I say, was it all worth it?
I remember.
And um, and all that is relates to what I've been going through and the thoughts. That same question keeps popping up. So even it might seem kind of dodgy when people ask me, was has everything you've done has been worth it? Or you just asked me about school and prioritizing more of my school academic life than like social life. Was it worth it? And honestly, you know, I still don't know. I still don't have a definite answer.
Yeah.
I do know that I wanted to give a little bit more on that social side. Feel like I should have put that a little bit more up centered. But I can't live with regrets. I learned
Can't,
from
right?
that. I learned from that, and I'm trying to change that right now. Being more social, as you say.
Yeah.
Hopefully, people don't think I'm like just living in a cave and just kind of hitting my in a under a roof or something. But no,
Patrick
no,
Star.
I'm not. Yeah, yeah. I'm not like that, guys. I go outside. I see the sunshine.
Yeah, you're more of a Larry the Lobster.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's some things like what you said. I've realized that for myself. Like some things you can deliberately ask yourself the question again and again and again, but the answer just doesn't come. And you kind of end up wondering, will the answer ever come? And I have to say personally, like I'm not even too sure. All I can do is I can come to a point where I just feel kind of content that the question exists, but I don't have the answer. And you just kind of keep going with life. And you're like, answers will pop up, things will feel right, but I don't know if I don't know if I'll ever be able to put the period on it,
Yeah,
type thing.
yeah. It's kind of like you add a comma and then or a semicolon, and then it just kind of keeps going. It's not
Yeah.
a exclamation part or like a period, like you said.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah,
that's very true.
I think that's also probably the answer that I was gonna mention. Is like every time I think I come up with an answer, a few months later I ask myself the same thing, and it's like, well, oh, man, I kind of changed my mind. I didn't think about this, and life has thrown me in this direction, and it's just changed my perspective. So yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah.
ever changing. You just kind of keep adding stuff to it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
so
Yeah,
it's
no.
kind of like you remember the philosophy book that we read. It was like a questionnaire of well, like what is your philosophy, and it just asked a bunch of questions, and how when I took that, I had certain answers. Months later, took the same little test, and I was surprised that a few of those answers changed, and I was like, huh,
Yeah.
because they're like open ended. I don't know if you remember, but it was like kind of like open ended. You like you have different perspectives. You can come at those answers or questions. So I feel like that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. It's
Mm-hmm.
true. And just going back to that subject of art, I think that's something that makes it so beautiful is that art preserves opinions that we have at a certain point in our lives. And then years later, we can come back and be like, whoa, I was thinking that or feeling that or seeing the world like that. It's like, I don't see
Yeah,
that anymore at all. But it
yeah,
preserves that time in your life. it's a testament to your time in reality. Like
Mm.
this right now. So interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's a moment captured in time and never forgotten, you know.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I did want to ask you something. I know you're the interviewer here, but like, what do you think of like separating people from the art or like art from the artist? Like, can there be separated?
I think it depends. Like again, Chris Cornell, my favorite musician, so much of what he's done, like it is to me him. I just
Right.
couldn't separate those things. Like I could personalize it to my own self, which I do, right? The lyrics and whatnot. But it's so much him. It's like a ship, he is the figurehead, he is the symbol of that. But I think also in like other instances, like I could watch a movie like Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire and not even know who wrote the screenplay. But like that movie to me is just such a great movie. I don't even know who wrote it? Something
Yeah,
like that. It depends, I guess.
yeah. No, that's a great point. I was just thinking, like, when like I think as a society we idolize a lot of these artists, like especially celebrities, like let's say Drake or whatever, or whoever your idol is. And it's like, okay, they make wonderful art, wonderful music, but let's say they do something bad as a person, in their personal lives. And a lot of people go at him, oh, we should ban their music or the art or blah, 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 because he did that, she did that. And like, well, the art is separate from him, isn't it? Or from her? Or is it like just because he did a mistake, do you just penalize that and discredit everything they did? That's where I was coming at. It's always a interesting thing for me to think about. Like as a musician, I don't like the term neither, or artist, but I think, or you associate the person, because of what they've done with the music and stuff like that. But do you also associate their personal life, their personal choices, their mistakes onto their music as well?
Yeah, very good point. It's like cancel culture in a way. Huh.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, cancel culture.
Yeah. I remember when people were bashing Johnny Depp, I just couldn't handle it. I was like, I can't
That's a
believe this. Like to
perfect
me,
example.
it's he's
Yeah,
still uh, he's still great, and it's just weird to me that because it's like a mob, and I think it's like Soren Kierkegaard. He says something about how I'm sure many people have said this, but how the mob just turns on like anyone that supports it too. It's kind of weird,
right, right.
but I don't have the full answer to that. But yeah, man, like I don't. It depends, right? Situation per situation, but I don't know. I think if something's like beautiful or meaningful, it should be valued for that.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of agree on that point. I do try to separate the artist from the art. I think, like you said, like if there's a song that I like and it just shows something special to me, I don't think I can just say, oh, discredit that because that song is written by this guy who did something terrible. I just like, I don't know. I still like the song. I want to feel guilty for liking that kind of song. That song.
There's
It's
something interesting. Voltaire, he has a quote that says something along the lines of, you need to have some bit of the devil inside of you to succeed in any of the arts. What do you make of that? What do you think?
man, that's from all the bands and artists and painters and stuff like that I look up to or that I like. I think about him and I like, okay, just thinking about that quote, I see a little bit of devilish in them, bad stuff that we as a society don't don't think is good. And it's like, oh yeah, maybe not 100%. I don't think maybe every single one, but from the top of my head right now, which is a lot that I'm thinking about, I'm like, oh man, he's done that, she's done that, this guy too. Like, yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's kind of true. You need to have a little rebellious attitude. I don't know what to call it, but the devilish attitude, I guess.
It's definitely something to think about.
It's definitely, yeah, exactly. I really
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I remember when I read that, I was like, wow, this is incredibly profound. That's one that I've screenshotted and I've just thought about again and again. It's strange, but definitely gleans a bit of truth about it.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, you look at a lot of even like athletes, stuff like that. I mean, those kind of people hold a certain thing that a lot of us don't have. It's,
Athletes?
yeah, athletes or musicians, top people, celebrities in general. I feel like they have, well, not all celebrities, but most of them do have a special quality to handle pressure. They have this kind of, I don't know what to call it, maybe charisma, maybe confidence. I don't know, but they can do stuff differently from the rest of us. I don't think if you put anybody, just a regular person, up into a pedestal like that, I don't know if they could handle that much power, attention, that rebellious thing attitude. A lot of people just want a simple life, you know, just be normal, unknown, calm, live a normal routine. And I feel like a lot of people just, you need to have some kind of fire inside to be on top of, that building or that stage. I don't know if I'm explaining myself too well.
No, no, it's something to think about. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. You mentioned athletes, and I remember reading somewhere how sports and art are different. Where in sports, there's like a competition of who's going to be the best. But in
Hmm.
art, that doesn't exist. It's not about who's best. Everybody's got their own little bit of talent, their magic, so to speak. And we put that out there. It's not a competition to see who's best. It's just creating to create. And there's no limit, there's no cap. It's just you do it. You put it out there in the world.
That's a good point. I think that's what a lot of the successful artists, I think, have, because there's certainly a lot of, especially, well, from what I've seen from guitar playing and like stuff like that, hanging out with other guitar players, it can be competitive. Like, oh, I can play this beat, I can play this song, I can do this technique, I can play more notes than you or something like that. And like, yeah, it's true. It can be a little competitive, but at the end of the day, it can come down to like, well, are you really creating anything meaningful with your speed and your all that stuff? You know. So I do agree. I do agree.
Yeah. Well, what'd you make of this segment?
It felt good. I think it felt fine. It felt
Do you
good.
feel more at peace?
More peace. Yeah, I kind of just forgot that there's a camera, recording me. Yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of talking now.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, man. Is
Yeah,
this where
yeah.
we should cut it?
Yeah. I got a few messages
Yeah,
regarding.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, keep you for that long.
You're good, man. You're good. This had to happen, and I want it to be good. I don't want to be rushed and just like some half-ass video. Make it quality, make it good. I hope it was. I hope it was good.
Yeah, I always say, man, every conversation has a destiny.
Mhm.
We don't know who's going to hear this, what it's going to change in someone, but hopefully it changes something in someone for the better. So that's all you can hope for, eh?
I hope so. Yeah, this is the only thing you can do.
Yep. Well, you take care once more, my friend.
Peace, man. Peace.